Well, let's hope this is not an omen for the Brisbane Lions. Their banner unfortunately collapsed before the side came out on the ground after showing so much promise in the NAB Cup, in winning the NAB Cup. The home and away season has proved more difficult for the Lions. They've had just the 2 wins and they hit the SCG, looking to put another win together after last week, accounting for Melbourne. Welcome, if you've just joined us, Danny Frawley and Paul Roos are with us, former premiership coach and champion St Kilda defender. Really tough challenge up against the reigning premiers for the Lions, Roosy.
Yeah, I think so. It's a cracking day, Spud. I wonder what the win-loss is. Banners when they break. Do you win normally or do you lose, Spud?
Wasn't a great aim because there's not a lot of wind. I'm not sure how much work they put in. The cheer squads, we know, do an outstanding job, but probably need a little bit more. We have a look at the team there. Daniel Merritt, he's been in really good form. And it's probably the big guys, Rosie. For them to win this game today, Jonathan Brown, Leuenberger, Longer, Merritt have to play probably 8 out of 10 games.
And I think there's a couple of interesting outs. We talked to Voss earlier about Blackie. Yeah, you'd think maybe, obviously we're not sure about his routine, but also Rains was out. Who's going to get the job? Maybe Adcock on the midfield. I mean, the Swans midfield's really dangerous. Rains did a great job last week on Jones. Maybe Adcock has to go to a Kennedy, or maybe has to go to a McVeigh as we see the Swannies running out.
Yeah, it's a big day for Jerry McVeigh's 200th game, and we all know about his emotional story last year, and it obviously had a fantastic conclusion in September last year as the premiership captain, and he's going to break through the banner and take the Swans through. Roosy, you had a chat to him earlier. He'd be pretty pumped about this.
Yeah, no, fantastic. He's a great person, coming from a great family. I mean, they're just an outstanding family, McVeigh's, as we see. And talking about the banners, we discussed it before. In all seriousness, they do a great job. I mean, all clubs put on a fantastic display. The banner they've got for McVeigh, the likeness on the banner, but captain now, Spart, he's really in career best form, and it's great to see him playing his 200th game.
Well, I just said he started at the gate and now he plays two-way football and just an icon of the Sydney Football Club.
We might talk to John Longmire as he's walked in. Horse, we're just talking about Macca. I mean, just a great story, 200 games, inspirational player.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's still playing really good footy at the moment. He's come in as a high draft pick talented, but he's worked hard and played on some of the best players in the competition. He's a really good, strong two-way player. It's a real credit to him.
You got your tackling game back really well last week against the Saints, John. 90 tackles.
Yeah, we need to, Spud. I mean, the week before here against the Cats, we weren't pretty ordinary in that area. We got our tackling up last week. The conditions probably lent that a little bit, so we'll see how we go in that department today.
I think it's starting to click for you now then?
Well, we've got to see how we go today. I think today's a good test. If you look at Brisbane and their transfer from their back half through their forward half, they're actually really effective at doing that, so I think that'll be a real test for us.
Is that what are the 2 or 3 things you're looking to lock down and take away from the Lions? Because they have played some pretty good football.
Yeah, they have. We saw in the pre-season and again over the last few weeks that if they're allowed to run and carry and handball through the centre of the ground, that they can be really quite devastating. They can get the score on the board when they need to, and they've had a lot of scoring shots. They've just been a bit inaccurate, so we need to restrict that.
Sammy Reid hopefully gets on the scoreboard today. You know, he's been okay. His work rate's there. It just hasn't been happening from on the scoreboard.
Yeah, he's just been dropping a few marks, Bud, which obviously hasn't helped as a key forward, so we need him to get his hands to the ball, but when he's getting his hands to the ball, to actually grab him and go back and kick a couple of goals.
Good luck today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks boys.
John Longmire, he's ready for action. Jared McVeigh, certainly ready for action. It's a cracking day at the SCG. We'll take a break and come back with the opening bounce.
Well, Jono, let's have
and
a
Barry
look at
Hall right after this.
Was there in 2012 and all saw it through a finals campaign last year.
Yeah, well, it's a slingshot footy pretty much, and that's where it's at the moment for Sydney. This is what we aren't seeing, the fact the ball getting in deep with some long kicks, but then Jetta on the fly, and that's what's missing at the moment. It's not only Jetta, you've got Goods, McGlynn and Parker, the other 3 that sometimes get involved in this slingshot football, but that's the main player right there in Jetta, and it's just his speed. It's kick into space and allow him to run and move. Defensively there, Fremantle actually set up pretty well, and I think that's what the opposition have learnt this year in 2013, but I really think it was the big one in the grand final when he took off on Rioli and was able to beat him on centre wing. Opposition side sit back and have a good look at that.
Richards and Grundy ranked 1 and 3 at winning the ball back in this area here, centre half back. Geelong's brand of football, we've seen that for years. Second best in the competition again this year, but this is the problem. Last year that was 18%. Now it's dropped to 12. They've only had 20 scores so far this season. Is it the opposition taking that off them, or is it the fact that Lewis Jetta's only kicked 2 goals in 5 games instead of the 45 we saw last year? Is it the fact that Rhys Shaw is out, or do they have to change their mechanics?
No, I think Shaw's the big one, and I think they need to be a bit more aggressive with their ball movement across half-back, try and get some deep ball open up, but the opposition is setting up really well at the moment and stopping this footy from the Sydney Swans.
Well, that's what we're looking forward to today. Can Sydney get their game going?
Beautiful conditions at the SCG. It's the Sydney Swans, maybe just starting to click into gear getting ready to take on the Brisbane Lions, and a man who would have really enjoyed these conditions up for the former champ from both the Saints and the Swans, Barry Hall. Baz, welcome again, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Hutto. We just wanted to talk a little bit about the Sydney Swans and the upside they got. There's been a couple of players out of form that are real key moves for the Sydney Swans. One of them, Sam Reid. He's desperately out of form at the moment. He's been outmarked quite a number of times one-on-one against players that he just shouldn't be. When he does get an opportunity to take a mark out in front, which he usually clunks, he's just not taking. So he's way down on confidence, but there's a lot of upside in him. Once Tippett comes back into this side in the second half of the year, that's going to help him immensely. The other's Lewis Jetta. Lewis Jetta was a sub last week, and he was a sub for a reason. The work rate was way down for him. His intensity, his hunt for the ball wasn't there. But last week when he did come on as a sub, all that was back. The old Lewis Jetta was back. So the Swans have rewarded him today. They're putting him back in the side. He's starting in the lineup. It's perfect conditions today for Lewis Jetta, and Hutto, we're expecting him to have a pretty big impact today.
Yep, as you said, perfect conditions for him. The toss about to take place. Jed Adcock as one of the co-captains of the Lions against Jared McVeigh. And who's won the toss? Jed Adcock has, so not getting in on the occasion of the 200th game.
Yeah, we'll see both coaches out there too. Obviously, umpire appreciation round, so both coaches shake the umpires, the captain. So I think that's a good look.
Yeah, look, they do a terrific job, the umpires, no question about that. The interesting one we talked about was Reigns before, and Hawley touched on Jetta. I thought maybe, certainly there's a matchup for Reigns, Spud.
Yep.
Maybe we're now talking about maybe an Adcock going, but I thought maybe even Reigns sat on Jetta. You know, as an outside player, took away that sort of slingshot type offence that the Swans like to do.
Even a half-forward type role on Nick Malcheski, you know, a defensive role. But at these conditions, you think Jonathan Brown for mine, he probably has to kick a bag of 5 or 6 for Brisbane to be right in this game. And interesting to note, he's the number one target. You know, they've gone to him 43 times this year. It'll be interesting to see what John Longmire and the defensive unit do, Roosie. Will they play sort of a floating guy in front of Jonathan Brown?
Yeah, I think they will. I think the Swans probably better than any other team drop off their half backs, get in front of the big, tall keys. I think John Longmire touched on it. As we see Jed Lamb, terrific first gamer, Hutto. Great to see him. You know, worked really, really hard. Didn't come in with great endurance, Jed Lamb, but worked extremely hard. Went on a bike ride, I think, with Crouchy, I read too. Crouchy loves his bike riding. Tagged Jed Langham along, so it's good to see him getting his first game. But I think it's about, for the Lions, and John touched on it, they're getting a fair bit of the ball, but they're going to need to take their chances today, Hutto. They can't afford to go 1 goal 4, 1 goal 5, because you know they're going to get limited opportunities against the Swans.
What do you think has dropped off since the NAB Cup, or is it just the opposition doing more about them and being stronger and in better form?
Yeah, look, I think the NAB Cup's about yourself, getting yourself into form, but then what happens in the season, Spud, as you well know, they'll start. I think the Swans will probably start to go with Maloney now. We've seen Rich, even though he's out injured, he's struggled because he started to get a tag, wasn't getting a tag in the NAB Cup. So now it's about the young Lions players finding a way at AFL football.
Well, it's a huge test this afternoon. 2 big months of footy against some of the real premiership contenders get underway. And Pike and Longa were in the ruck. And it's Adcock with the first salvo. Big, deep kick. Leuenberger, who was prominent early last week. Richards was able to knock that away. Buick's been lively this year. Grundy comes charging through. Kieran Jack escapes the clutches. And it's close to the line. Here's Pierce Hanley working it over.
And that was Adcock spud on McVeigh at the first centre bounce. So we got some good mail about that. Won't relieve our spy, but got some good mail on Adcock going to McVeigh, and he won the first clearance. He has been a good midfielder and a good tagging player, Adcock. And you can see him on the back of the stoppage, and I think he might have given away a free kick. No, it's a Rockman. Yeah.
So it goes to Longa, who set sail. This is setting up for Leuenberger or Brown, and either could have had a piece of that. Neither could drag it down. Well, Melcheski.
Just on that, Brown and Leuenberger have to separate. You know, you've got Grundy and Richards going for the one ball. So if you're going to play your 2 key tools down there, get some separation.
I agree, Spud. I don't think the Lions can just bang it in long all day. The Swans are the best at defending their defensive 50. They have to lower their eyes. And this is the other thing they're good at, that slingshot football where they open up their forward line. And as we see, no forwards inside 50 now for the Swans. Now they're releasing back in with Reid coming back towards the ball. And that's a good start.
And it takes the mark, as you said, a confidence booster for him.
Now, if we go back in the marking contest, and we might pick a couple up today, that was a push there, Sammy Reid, but we all agree, Spud, that shouldn't be a free kick. But if you look at it here, whether we get a shot of Reid coming into that contest, we'll probably get it from behind. We just missed it, but he actually pushes off, and that has been paid as a free kick.
And it was Clark, his opponent, unfortunately misses, and it's a behind.
Well, that's a good start for Reid. As we know, last time against Brisbane, round 15, he kicked a career-high 6 goals. So, great start for Reid. Just needs to hit the scoreboard for his own confidence, though. But that mark early will give his confidence a lot of help.
He's on a very... Sorry, Hawley.
I was critical of him early because he is such a good player and he's just out of form at the moment. But, geez, if he can do a little bit more of that, his assets are a real upside for Sydney.
Well, I guess he's been used to playing on really top defenders too, and today he's got a young, inexperienced defender in Clark, so that might help him as the ball goes over the line and out of bounds.
Well, both sides elected to play both ruckmen on the ground. So you've got Pike and Mumford. There's the push there, Rosie, we talked about.
Well, and that's why we're all confused, Spud. I mean, that was a clear push. Now, none of us think that should be a free kick. It's Adam Goods, great forward stoppage.
Brilliant stuff from Goods. Just to remind everyone, he's still got it.
Yeah, look, that was just a great setup, and we'll see that again. Adam Goods playing mainly forward. But I tell you what, Mike Pike, it's probably the most underestimated story in football still. He still hasn't been given enough credit. I think that was Pikey. Here we go, look at the setup here. Patfull just loses. Yeah. You can't let Adam Goods get goal side like that, Spud.
It's okay to touch and feel, but you've got to be touching and feeling in the defensive side, not the attacking. He's actually opened up the gate for Adam Goods to run into.
Strong start for the Swans. And when Adam Goods kicks some early goals, that sends a few worries into the coach's box. Patfull, his direct opponent at the moment. Longer and Pike continues their little battle. He followed it up well. He's become their number one ruckman this year. He's been preferred. He was the last couple of weeks as the first opening bounce ruckman. Mumford starting on the bench.
Look, I had a chance to chat to Stephen Torbett, who is the greatest ruck coach in the history of AFL football. And we talked about Pikey as a student of the game. He absolutely laps it up. He laps up the vision. And Spuddy's really willed himself to become a very good AFL player.
Could have been some interference there, but umpire waved it on. Leicester. Now it's back in the Swans' hands. Hanbury servicing Melcheski. And here's Mumford up forward. It just crept out the back and away. Merritt sees it over. So when Mumford's up forward, it does stretch the Brisbane defence, doesn't it?
Here's the stoppage there. Look at that. Yeah. That's a great tap.
Had to be defensive side.
And as you said about Patfull, you've got to take the dangerous area. Here's another forward stoppage now, and we'll see if they've learnt from it. Because you can't... The Swans are very, very good at those set-up situations.
No, you're right, Hutto. Daniel Merritt is now playing on the resting ruckman. So it means that Justin Clark, playing his second game, will be on Sam Reid. So Reid's got a great opportunity today to play on the inexperienced Justin Clark for Brisbane.
Well, both big blokes having a run at that one. Again, Hadcock got the clearance, but it hasn't got out of the 50. And Nick Smith takes the mark. That is such a dangerous kick in footy, isn't it? If you're going to kick it from that last line of defence, you've got to at least get it out of the 50 into the boundary side.
Well, you got the outnumber. Generally, teams push up their half forwards at defensive stoppages. And here, that's poor. That's just really poor to let an easy short pass there to Hanbury. But you're right. You can't just bomb that ball out, Hutto, that defensive stoppage. You've actually got to run it boundary side, or if you're going to kick it, at least kick it boundary side, not up the middle of the ground.
Yeah, Jack Redden there and Marco Paparone were just caught spectating there. That's inexcusable.
Daniel Hanbury having a stellar season. Been in the wars a bit, but hasn't stopped him. He's a hard man to hold. It's not the best strike, though. It's across for a behind.
And at this stage, it's just about the Lions getting their hands on the ball. I mean, you've got disposal 16-4, Spud. Now, it's early days, but we talked to Vossi about it. It's just about composure, because these young guys are going to be under pressure. But I don't mind this. Now you just got to find a couple of little targets. Unfortunately, you make that play on quickly, and it just falls into Sydney's hands.
Well, it has to Jack. Hammers it back. The pressure builds. He's Reid again. Merritt was there to come across, but he's taken the mark, and he surely will put this one through.
Beautiful grab. Merritt's actually holding his head. I'm not sure why, because Reid was in front, but it's about the contested ball, Rosie. Take a look at that. 11-4. It's only early in the game. This is a promising side here for Sam Reid and the coaching staff. Not sure what happened to Merritt there. He tried to spoil, but just lost his footing.
Well, he's never been the best kick in front of goal, but that one's through.
The real issue for Brisbane Lions is the 4 inside 50s for 4 scoring shots. So they're going 100% scoring efficiency. And the real concern, I know that Merritt was on him then, but Justin Clark was caught in traffic. Merritt wasn't around, so Merritt was trying to guard the ruckman and Sam Reid. The inexperienced Justin Clark was obviously up the ground a little bit. And that was just a beautifully weighted kick to Sam Reid. That's where you want it. You know, when Brisbane went forward early, Jedcock got the ball and didn't kick to Leuenberger's advantage.
I think the problem there was the play on from the back pocket. You play on blindly, you're going to play on with the Swans' hands because the Swans are going to be setting up for a kick down the line. You've got to lower your eyes, you've got to be prepared to hit your targets and move the ball around against the Swans.
Longer, some good work at the coalface. Quick kick away, Adcock, but sweeping there, Malcheski, just in the right place.
Well, he just reads it beautifully well, doesn't he? He's always in the corridor.
It's only a target was really long. In fact, it really tested the kick, dropped a bit short. Reid was there competing. McGlynn goes to work now. And the Swans could be even further ahead than they are at 2-3-15.
Well, McGlynn was too unselfish then. Instead of getting the ball and exploding towards goal, he was looking around to give a handball, which is okay. He made a mistake by making a team mistake, but when he looks at the tape, he could have ran 5 yards and kicked an easy goal then.
And let's see if Brisbane can get it out of defence. It was an ugly-looking kick, but Hanley's there to try and make it good.
Need some support.
He just scrambled something close to a handball out. Leicester brought into the team this week to try and give them another biggish body, and he's drawn a free. That's something that they desperately need.
Now just take some heat out of the game. I know it's early, but the Swans are all over him at the moment in contested ball and possessions. Just going to have to find some targets and work your way through. That's not a great start with a poor kick, and it puts your team immediately under pressure.
Well, the scramble on, barging through head first, McGlynn.
Fossey was pretty tight-lipped before the game about what they're going to do different. Can you see from up there, boys, what they are actually doing different?
Well, I think Adcock Hawley seems to be that target player that we thought Rains might be. We've got Adcock going to McVeigh, but at this stage it's a bit hard to tell because they just haven't got their hands on the football.
They've only taken the one mark, and we know that Sydney, you know, they're the number one team in the competition for conceding uncontested possessions. You know, so it's just they guard the space better than the other team in the competition.
Now Mumford having a run in the ruck with Leuenberger. Hanbury not getting out of there easily. O'Keefe having another terrific season, averaging 25 disposals, 15 of those contested. He's become somewhat more of a contested player as time's gone on.
And he's done a couple of good run with rolls now, O'Keefe. His big body, you know, he's a 6'2" playing in the midfield as the umpire gets in the way there.
That's appreciation.
Yeah.
Hanbury turns onto the left and gets them into the 50 again. Reid, nice little early shove, get rid of his opponent, set it up for Goods, delayed the handball to Jetta, and the kick goes to full forward, and Mike Pike says thank you very much.
Well, Mike Pike did the team thing at the start because he played in the pocket knowing that Reid was on the inexperienced Clark, and then it come back. So it's really good play, teamwork there for Mike Pike, taking Merritt out, which is their best defender, and allowing Reid to be the number one target, and now he gets full reward.
Well, let's see if he does get full reward. No problem there. Sydney 3-3-21, Brisbane 0.
I'll tell you what, I mean, it's 6 inside 50s for 6 scores, but we rate Daniel Merritt, but Daniel Merritt even been all at sea. Mike Pike, if we see here, you've called it really good hands, even though the umpire gets in the way. Look at the number of Swans players getting to the contest. Good bump, good body work, good hands, and then Goodsy probably the no look, but here it is here. Daniel Merritt's had 2 one-on-one contests and lost both of them, one against Pike and one against Reid.
Now, it's a big concern there. Well done to Mike Pike. What a great start. 3 disposals, 1 mark, 1 score. But Merritt, you want to halve a contest as a key defender and build your game from that. He's been beaten twice already, Daniel Merritt.
Mumford brings it down to his feet, then Kennedy and Armstrong. Maloney's had no impact so far. Zorko lays a tackle, and it does fall Maloney's way. One of those instant kicks. Touch of the old Jim or Phil Cracker about it. Getting it forward, Grundy to Rampy, who's been an impressive youngster. Works the hand. Jetta going to both ends of the ground, working hard. This time they've turned it over quickly, but O'Keefe as the backup arrived for the Swans. And there's one of those dangerous kicks. So it set up, that's Mays. He'll be tested today. The young man is winning lots of footy in his short career, but there's some big bodies to contend with for him this afternoon. Jetta, Reid, getting right up the ground. Got it from Hanbury. Back to the wing, the scramble. Polkinghorne going one way, and now he's going with the ball. Hanley. Yo, who kicked one of the points of the year last week. And here's Mays again. Maloney, fresh from an incredible effort last week against his old side.
The big concern for Brisbane now is Sydney have got their tackling pressure right up where it should be. Against Geelong Rosie a couple of weeks ago, they had a low tally count for about 3 years. They had 90 against St Kilda last week over in Wellington. They've started extremely well again with 9-4 in their favour.
Well, they've had 9 tackles and they've had 6 scoring shots. So there's a bit of a myth that if you're winning on the scoreboard, you don't have to tackle. I mean, the Swans do tackle. They're a very, very good tackling team. That's poor. Get back off the mark. And these are the little half chances that Brisbane can't afford to muff.
Here's Bird. Just angles the kick back in for Parker, who could easily have been best on ground last week and taken the Anzac medal. Lost it on a count back. High one from Jack. Top of the square, Reid with 2 to contend with. He got the runs. He's always dangerous when that happens. Mumford there. The big blokes have got a bit of agility as well.
Well, it's a great result there from Reid. He was out of position. There was 2 Brisbane players there and he halved the contest. He brought the ball to the ground.
And there's one of those sliding ones going in there too. So there's a forward stoppage. And let's just have a look at the setup. First one, they let Adam Goods run free. Now they've got some extra numbers.
Well, Patfield was making sure that Goods was going nowhere that time. So Leicester got the clearance and it's over the line and out of bounds.
It's just about the Lions players thinking their way through. There's going to be pressure. You're going to get tackled. And this is what you can't teach Hutto to young players. They've got to experience this pressure and make decisions under pressure. At this stage, they're struggling, but they just need to get it under control, need to control the ball for a bit and at least get a quick goal on the board if they possibly can, just to steady the ship.
Kennedy smothered his own man there. He's so desperate for the footy. Here's Zorko going to work, trying to collaborate with Hanley. They're 2 players, they do need the footy. They're getting the footy in their hands. Jedde's had a really good start for the Swans. They're building him up internally. This time it comes unstuck. And the kick is wide again from Polkinghorne.
There's 3 opportunities, Smart. That's the second kick. And then that little handball going through the corridor that they missed. That's what they're really struggling with at the moment. Just the little skill errors are just killing them.
Yeah, but I think it starts, I agree with that wholeheartedly. It starts at the coalface though. Contested ball 28-15 Sydney's favour. They've really come to play the Swans and the Brisbane Lions at the moment on the back foot. That's his 3rd contested mark already, Sam Reid.
Smart little back lead from Hanbury too, and that is surely a free kick. Yeah.
Well, I think it's time to put Daniel Merritt on the Reid. I know that Merritt's been down there playing on the resting ruckman, but I think now Reid looks like the best forward. You play your best defender on the best forward, and all due respect to Justin Clark playing his 2nd game, he looks all at sea at the moment on Sam Reid.
Well, I mean, Hawley touched on it before about what the Lions have done different. It's very hard to tell. I mean, there's nothing different about the Lions today. They're letting the Swans get absolutely everything their own way.
So Hanbury comes in, and that's solid enough. It's through. It's ominous signs for the Lions. 4-3 to nothing.
I think the thing that I don't like at the moment about the Lions, Spud, they seem to be giving the Swans everything they want. You see here this kick going into another one-on-one contest in the Swans forward 50. They're getting up the ground, the Swans forwards, but they're beating them back in as well. Oh, I think they've got to drop one back and say, this player is going to play inside 50 in the Swans forward 50 and stay there and help his teammates.
And then just get a bit of slow tempo going, because at the moment what they're doing is not working. Handball receives 23-6 Sydney's favour.
Yep.
Well, it's all working for the Swans at the moment. All the KPIs, contested ball, handball receives 23-6, inside 50s 8 for 7 scoring shots.
Back to the opening ruckman. And more of the same for the Swans. O'Keefe, Reid, almost. He'll have another go in here. Clark did well to paddle it and may have earned himself a free. And a little bit of respite. And they certainly need it, the Lions, although that is a pretty ordinary kick. Straight back to O'Keefe, to McVeigh. And Melchesky, they're dealing it around. Kieran Jack through the 50. Didn't have a shot, set it up for Kennedy. Adcock intervened. But Bolton was Johnny on the spot. He misses.
Kieran Jack, he's the in-form midfield at the moment. He's at 8 disposals, but 4 of those have been going inside forward 50. And nearly, Josh Kennedy normally would mark that. So he's on fire at the moment, Kieran Jack.
Buick the target on the kick in. Matt, now was that interference? Nope. He's saying it's a good spoil.
Yeah, we don't want to harp on this all day, Spud, but...
the other umpires paid it.
Yeah, that's a good decision. We don't want to harp on this all day, but Reigns, surely Reigns could have taken Kieran Jack or Lewis Jetta, or I know we now know Adcock's gone to McVeigh. But I'm just a bit flabbergasted. And even Simon Black, I mean, we know that he might be unfit enough, but we know he's a hardened midfielder. And I would suspect the Swans would have been very, very happy when they saw Black's name not on the... Another turnover kick, and they're really struggling now just with basic skill errors.
Yeah, you're right.
Total possession, 65 to 29.
You're getting back to Reigns. It was amazing. So they've obviously put another midfielder in to try and win the ball, but there's enough Sydney Swans premiership midfielders to run with, you would think.
Well, it's a great education for players. So Reigns locks someone away, and you give a younger player a bit of a different role, maybe a half forward coming up and let him run up and back the ground and free him up a little bit. But certainly, as we see here, they're getting their slingshot game going, the Swans. Everything's going in their own favour.
Armstrong trying to hit Reid. He's a good target at the moment. All of a sudden, it's all coming back.
Well, it certainly is. The uncontested ball as well. The game on the outside, which we don't readily recognise with the Sydney Swans, it's 41 uncontested possessions to 12. So they're winning it on the inside and on the outside.
Yeah, it's been a horror start, unfortunately, for the Lions.
It is horrific, and it's only getting worse. Or better if you're a Swans fan.
We asked the question of John Longmire just before the game. He said his work rate was there. He just was getting his hands on. He's doing the hard work getting him. Just wasn't clunky in the hands, but already he's taken the 4 marks, 2 contested, and it's just his work rate at the moment. He's the informed player on the ground. 2
goals, 1. This is a demolition job at the moment, Ruzi.
Yeah, and look, it's a bit like structure, Spud, and there's Reid kicking the goal, but the structure's there because the ruckmen are taking Merritt. So they haven't allowed Merritt to go to Reid.
Look, I know that matchup's there and young Clark on Reid, but I think it's now time. You've got your best defender Merritt on the ruckman. Now, young Clark, okay, be beaten for size and body. I would make the change, Merritt onto Reid.
Well, you got your best defender on the ruckman. You got your second best defender on Goods in Patfull. So you've got 2 other options. You're right. I think you're going to have to make the change now. It's going to be hard for Clark. I'd probably tend, as silly as it sounds, I'd go to Goodsy because Goodsy will be up the field, whereas Pike and Mumford will still be in the goal square and it'll be tough for Clark.
Gee, the way the ball's coming in at the moment, though, Bruce Goodall and Jeff Southby would be probably struggling, wouldn't they?
Good point, yep.
Especially at their age.
Yeah, but I still put your best defender on the informed forward, normally.
Cornelius.
But that's also why, Hutto, I think I'd like to see an extra number drop back and stay inside that defensive 50. Just put an extra down there so you're actually giving Clark, you're going to leave him on Reid, give him some support.
The handball receives at 28-7 in favour of Sydney.
The stats, Hutto, are a train wreck. 76-34 disposals. You've got efficiency of disposals 73-50. Contested possessions 33-21. Marks 16-14. You can go on and go on and go on. It's a train wreck.
Well, the Lions have the ball in their 50, but unfortunately, it's the Swans with command of it. Although that's almost out on the full, but not quite. And Reid's up to take the grab. So they've got to find a way of limiting the damage until quarter time, don't they?
Well, he's taken 1 more mark than Brisbane collectively, Sam Reid. He's taken 5. Brisbane have only taken 4.
Now Bolton. Here's a good opportunity for Pike. He's pushed off. Beautiful. He's got it again.
What a beautiful kick from Bolton, though. He assessed it beautifully, Jude Bolton. He looked at Mumford and he looked at Merritt and he just put it to his advantage. But that's what you're talking about there, is the improvement of Pike. 2 years ago, I would have thought Merritt will win or halve that contest. He used his body and protected the drop zone beautifully. Have a look at this. Jude Bolton assesses where Pike is and just does a beautiful lead. Pike just uses his body magnificently well.
And that's Daniel Merritt, one of the best defenders one-on-one in the competition.
So Pike comes in and squeezes another one through. It's his second.
Well, it is an extraordinary story, and as I keep saying, that it's one that really hasn't got due recognition.
No, I know you do like to bang on about it, Reezy, but rightly so, because we all saw what happened in the grand final, and most people were shocked with how well he played, but it wasn't like it was totally unexpected given his progression. But then we thought, well, maybe, he won't necessarily go on any further from that, but he just gets better and better.
I mean, this is just a great one-on-one contested mark. Your body, and now it looks like they've made the move, Clark onto Pike. Well, interesting, Spud. Both the key defenders are now out of form because Merritt's been out of form on the ruckman, and Poor Clark, has been out of form on Reed. So, as we talked about Hutto already, it's been a horror start for the Lions.
Well, round one against the Dogs, they didn't kick a goal in the opening term. They kicked 6 behind. They're unfortunately not even getting scoring shots at the moment. It is a horror show for the Lions, but there's a long way to go in this game, so if they can just find a way of getting in and kicking a goal, maybe things will change a bit and the nerves might steady. They're putting some good forward pressure on here. Unfortunately, Longer got a little overexcited, has given away the free. Armstrong and the Swans are on the break, and they've got an extra through the middle, and it's Jack scooting away, bouncing away, getting ready to rev it up. No, he passed. Wasn't the perfect pass, but Goods can swing around, go back to Mumford, and then it's back outside again with McGlynn. He's in range from there, and Clark did well just to push off Pike.
No, well done. Already you can see young Clark's a little bit more comfortable with the stationary target of Pike. And I like the matchups now with Merritt on Reed, because all of a sudden Reed now knows I've got Daniel Merritt on. I've had a great start. Now I've got to keep my form going.
Mark not paid to Parker. Showed his marking prowess over in Wellington for a midfielder. He's a handy mark, Luke Parker.
Yeah, he's very, very good. It reminds me a bit of Jude Bolton. Jude Bolton is a very good mark overhead, and Jude's mainly playing forward now, and Lukey Parker's the guy that sort of come in and, I mean, Jude we know can go midfield still, but very similar player to Jude Bolton.
Unfortunately, some of the kicks out of defence for the Lions have turned it straight back into Sydney hands. Bird. Now Jetta. Just delayed, trying to work in on the angle. It was a little bit of a hit and hope.
I've been watching Jonathan Brown lead, and unfortunately just hasn't been getting to him. Here we go.
He's come right up to accept that one from Polkinghorne.
What's his first touch?
Stretches it through to Adcock. Just scrambled the ball past. Polkinghorne's kick smothered. It's the big force of Mike Pike coming charging through. Now Brown, you can see the determination on his face to get it in there. Leuenberger. Good body work from Richards. Still in. And Leuenberger is able to...
Well done.
Yeah, it's good kick. Centre it nicely. And run down to the right spot, Pierce Hanley.
Well, that was just a great recovery from Leuenberger. He's the tallest player on the ground. It was great to see Jonathan Brown. He wasn't getting in the play, and that's what you want from your leadership, Roosie. Come forward to the centre, got 2 possessions, and now they've got their first shot at goal. That's what you want from your leaders.
So Pierce Hanley, just 15 goals in his career. Most of them would have been on the run, charging down at the Gabba, but that one's through. And hallelujah, it's a goal for the Lions.
Yeah, look, I mean, we talked about Leuenberger before the game. He's got enormous ability. I suppose the question is it ruck running around? You can see he contests, he gets after the ball here. Teddy Richards probably doesn't need to keep that ball in, but really good ground ball and really good awareness to set up their first goal. I think eventually, though, Leuenberger needs to be that real Dean Cox-type ruckman that gets the ball 20 to 25 possessions a game, goes forward, takes some marks. I mean, he's still relatively young in ruck terms, but that was good play.
So we look to see now whether that goal makes a difference to the Lions.
Well, I think it was great play from Brown. You're right with Leuenberger. By all reports, he's the quickest player on the list with Merritt. So, and we saw that there at ground level. He's a great talent. Just need to see more of it.
He's up winning the tap conclusively there. Maloney just had it worked away from him. Paparone comes charging through. The physical nature of the Swans on display. Adcock's one who can really stand up to them.
And the great thing about the Swans coaching staff, Hutto, they don't leave anything to chance. I mean, Maloney, they're the premiership team and they're tagging Maloney.
Yep.
Ryan O'Keefe's got Maloney, he's got 1 possession, and that's what makes the Swans coaching group such a good group. They prepare extremely well. They've spread the Brisbane defence with the ruckman Spud. We've talked about that a lot. But they've also taken away one of the Brisbane's greatest strengths in Brent Maloney.
Well, he was the best player last week. He was dominant in the midfield against Melbourne.
Parker stretching the handball. It's tough for Hanbury there to get a clean one, but he did somehow. McGlynn darting every which way. Melcheski, and they can build again through Armstrong. 21 disposals last week. Would have lifted his confidence rating.
Good spread from Sydney.
Richards was a mongrel off the boot.
Yeah.
And it was a chance for Polkinghorne. And
look, they've got to make them pay here, Brisbane.
Yep. Unfortunately, Hanley double grabbed a bit, and then the handball intercepted by O'Keefe. Looking for an outlet. Mays caught as soon as he picked it up. Well done, Bolton. Jack, what a quarter he's had. That's his 12th disposal.
I'll tell you what, if you had an ISO camera on Ryan O'Keefe and Brent Maloney then, Ryan O'Keefe worked twice as hard as Brent Maloney did. And that's the difference in the two teams.
Malcheski was a terrific pickup initially from Goods. Jars out of there. McVeigh, they keep feeding it through. Here's Hanley again. They are starting to get their hands on the ball a fraction more.
Well, they are, Hutto, but that kick from Ted Richards a minute ago, a good side would have made them pay. Brisbane had an easy ball, and Teddy Richards, he knew it wasn't a great kick, but good sides will make you pay with that mistake. And Brisbane have to work extremely hard to get in this position.
There's Maloney, that time able to jam it on the boot. Get it to half forward. Paparone muscled out of it, ran around. Armstrong gets in there hard. Umpires tending to let it flow a little bit in the stoppages today. And we're going to have a ball up again.
Yeah, it's just the elementary errors. I mean, we see Ryan O'Keefe there. We're looking at O'Keefe's had 9 disposals, Spud, and Maloney's 2, because it's simply working harder both ways. He'll work Ryan to stop Maloney, but he'll also work offensively as well. And Maloney's going to have to work 2 ways.
And we saw what Maloney's like with the free rein last week. Surprisingly, Melbourne didn't tag him, and that's who he used to play for, and he really did chop Melbourne up.
Hanbury goes to ground, and I think a good call not to pay a free that time.
They're starting to win a little bit of contested ball now, Brisbane, which is a real positive. They're starting to even up the tackling, so their work rate at the coalface is starting to improve. But ball use by foot, Sydney 66%, Brisbane just over 50%, 55.
Yeah, it's just the elementary errors, isn't it, Spud, that they're still making. They're sort of back in the game in a physical sense, but they've now got to use the ball better.
And they've got a fair bit to make up, haven't they? A lot of ground. And the umpire late with the call, but he's paid in the back.
Yeah, Ryan O'Keefe.
Yeah.
As you see, he's doing a two-way roll. He's coming up possession number 10. 7 of those contested.
And this is where Maloney's got to go, okay, I've got 2, he's got 10. He's not going to get any more. Maloney needs to change his mindset and say, I'm actually the hunter now. I'm not going to be the hunted, I'm going to be the hunter and stop Ryan from getting the ball.
And what a magnificent player he's been. Versatile player over the years. Whether it be midfield or forward. Kicking goals just like that. Ryan O'Keefe, it's number 7 for the Swans.
Yeah, I don't want to harp on it, but that's a spanking of a player, Spud. You've got a 10-possession, 1-goal quarter against Maloney, a 2-possession quarter. So that's an absolute spanking at the moment. And it's something that obviously you'd think Michael Voss will address with Maloney. He's been a very, very good player for them. But now it's about, okay, this is my role. My role now is to stop Ryan O'Keefe from getting the ball.
This is the most disposals ever in a quarter by the Sydney Swans. By them.
Ever.
121 of the Swans. So
wow. 121 to 53.
Yes. Incredible numbers. They've worked it around by hand, so it's 60 kicks and 61 handballs.
It's the work rate off the ball too, and stats do not lie. Sometimes they do, but handball receives 45 to 9. The work rate and the ability to share and care for each other from Sydney is first class.
Yeah, 45 to 9. That is an astonishing gap, isn't it? And Matner leaping. There was already a whistle blown. And the siren sounds to end the first quarter. Sydney, 15 times they went inside 50. It produced 7 goals, 4. And Brisbane went in 6 times and just produced the 1-goal spot.
Just an amazing performance from the reigning premier in the Sydney Swans. Kieran Jackie just said 13 disposals, 6 inside 50s, winners all around the ground. A little bit of infighting here, but I think Michael Voss needs to get to his troops very quickly and says, don't worry about the push and shove. We need to win the ball and, more importantly, use the ball.
I think each Lions player, you're right, Spud, needs to look in his own backyard. Don't worry about his teammate at the moment. It's about winning your one-on-one contest, and that's the first thing they need to take care of.
Well, let's see what Michael Voss can communicate to them during the quarter-time break. It's Sydney 7-4, 46, Brisbane 1 straight 6.